It's unusual when I have to use a mic, but I've been informed that there are some people in the back who can't hear me talking.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
Not that anything I have to say is of much importance, but our esteemed colleague Eliot Glasshiem is here and has some information he would like to impart to us, and Corey Mock has also joined us. So I would ask you to give your attention to Eliot and to Corey, and also a round of applause, because as all of you know, spending all that time in Bismarck is a sacrifice under the best of circumstances, and they've been doing it under far from the best. So we thank you, Eliot.
Thank you, and thank District 17 for the great food as usual. And yes, it's always a pleasure to be here. I was asked to talk a little bit about the legislature, and then you can wake up in about 4 or 5 minutes. So most of what I have to say is very sad and depressing. So get a somber face on, but at the end I have a positive. So, thinking back about the legislative session, which was over in the end of April, May 3rd, 2nd or 3rd, in addition to mismanaging the legislative session so that we were 1 hour short of breaking the law, the Republicans made a mess of legislation that they passed and killed. Mostly, as they say in the business, they watered down, in the bar business, they watered down the drink. They watered down flaring regulations. They passed some, but they watered them down. They watered down penalties for drunk driving. They increased them a little, but they watered it down. They passed something on animal cruelty and animal safety, but they watered it down. The amounts for environmental regulations and safety and health and the West, they gave something to it, but they watered it down. Contribution to the employee retirement fund, they made 1 year out of 2, they watered it down. In addition to what we got that was watered down, here's what we didn't get. We didn't get protection for the human rights of LGBT individuals. We didn't get the ability of local governments to set their own traffic fines. We didn't get ethics reform, which was led by Representative Mock, 3, 4, 5 different bills that should have passed. We didn't get a cap on higher education tuition. We didn't get property tax relief for renters. And we didn't get a direct tax refund of $400 for every person in North Dakota over the age of 18. And then here's what we did get. We got, oh yeah, I can't read. No, yeah. Someone, who wrote this? Who wrote this? What we did get is we got no unemployment benefits for locked out workers, right? Which made absolutely no sense to me. If you go on strike, it's your choice. If you're locked out, it's their choice. They ought to pay. I mean, it's that simple. Didn't happen. As part of the national campaign, we got some voter ID restrictions. Not as bad as some of the other states that are now coming down, but still some narrowing of the ability to vote. We got a proposed constitutional amendment on higher education that would politicize higher education and runs the risk of getting us de-accredited by national accrediting organizations if the constitutional amendment passes next November. As also part of a national campaign, we got religion masquerading as science. We got attack upon 3, 4, 5 bills attacking women's rights to choose, and we got essentially what was what I call a Taliban activity, which is one religion imposing its beliefs on everybody else. And we got protection of Republican office holders from grand juries. The ability to use the grand jury was vastly decreased in order to protect Republican office holders. Well, so I didn't mean to depress you too much. It's a nice day. But, you know, there is some good news. When you spend $13 billion, you can't help but do something. That's helpful. We did get the full med school expansion. I was very pleased to be, it's just little known, you're the only people in the world who know this, don't tell anybody. But I was very pleased to, in the final days of negotiations on the med school, on the building budget, the higher ed bill, I gave the opponents a formula to use which allowed them to then go into conference committee and fund the full med school thing by putting it off, by doing half the first 2 years and half the second 2 years. We got the law school funded, which was very important. We got Medicaid expansion, which was very important. Some more revenues for the West that went to deal with the oil boom and the oil crisis, so not enough. We got a modest increase in employee pay and university funding. And we beat back an attack on drone use in North Dakota airspace, which is important to get enforced. There are reasons to be concerned about it, but it looks, we want to belong to North Dakota. So even better news now, that's some good news, but even better news, the state Democratic Party and the legislative leaders are more organized and focused than ever before I've seen. Corey and Mac are taking a lead in that from a legislative perspective. They're keeping their eye on the ball by focusing on recruiting now, recruiting the most electable candidates now for 2014 and raising money to support them. And the best news of all, I suppose, is in addition to what you're young Democrats.
Bring him over. Bring him over. Meet him.
In addition to what you're raising today and what District 17 is going to raise for the 2014 campaign, the state party and legislative leaders and legislators from District 18 and 42 all have a stake in winning seats back in 2014. We will be there for District 17 with money and support. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Eliot. Way to save the good news till last. Mike Morley has a report.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Mike Morley. Senator Heitkamp was invited to be here tonight. With regrets, she is not able to attend because of her schedule. She has written a letter to Tom Potter and the D17 membership, and I've been asked to read it. And her letter to the group is as follows. Dear Tom and D17 members, thank you so much for your kind invitation to your annual Pig in the Park fundraiser. I regret that my schedule did not allow me to attend. I want to thank each and every one of you for all the good work you do and for all the support you gave me last year and have given me since I took office in January. District 17 is a great district, and I look forward to seeing all of the exciting things you have planned for the upcoming year. I could not be prouder to be representing our state as a U.S. Senator, and I hope to get a chance to visit with all of you very soon. Enjoy your evening, and thank you again. Sincerely, Heidi Heitkamp, United States Senate. Thank you.
Thank you, Mike. Corey?
Well, thank you. Thanks for the invitation. It seems fitting that I've always known that I've had a fraction of the wisdom of Eliot, so it only goes to serve or show that I would have a fraction of the notes.
Fraction of the age.
Right. So I've been told. I only wish that one of them were less obvious. It is an honor to be here at Pig in the Park. I almost ended up picking the wrong park. I had to apologize to Meg because I went to Bringwatt instead of Lincoln. So I'm just glad that there was still some of the best food you can find at a political fundraiser by the time I pulled in. And so on that note, there's, I believe, still plenty of food. So please get in as soon as we're done here and help yourself. Lord knows it doesn't travel very well on a bicycle. Eliot did a great job at describing sort of the trials and tribulations that we had to deal with this last legislative session. It's frustrating for us to be down in Bismarck and to put up with the nonsense and the shenanigans that happen at the State House. I can only imagine how even more frustrating it's got to be in Grand Forks and not be able to look them in the eyes and say, "What are you doing? Why do you think it's appropriate for legislators to get away with some of the behavior that they do? Why do elected officials not need to be held accountable to their voters? The grand jury reform that Eliot was talking about, asking one of the bill carriers on the floor of the House if this was if there was any rhyme or reason to do this, and his answer was essentially no. It's because we can. And I could not believe the audacity that they had to change the one and only forms that people have to recall their elected officials and to make it more difficult than it would be to move the head of government in the county. And it was just staggering to think that's the mindset that these leaders have. That's the arrogance that was illustrated in the legislation they put forward. The other one that really caught a lot of attention. The milk bill. I could not believe. When you look at a session of bills, you think there's one piece of legislation that just makes sense. And when a freshman legislator from Fargo brought in a bill that would have used state dollars, a $1.2 billion surplus, and he could have sent $500,000 over the next 2 years to make sure every low-income child, every kid, and we use the turn of phrase, make sure the poor kids get a glass of milk or a glass of juice during that midday break. It's a time when the students go to the cafeteria and they walk through the milk line. And those that have the money to get that carton of milk or that glass of juice, take it. But it's not like those that don't have the money in their account sit in the classroom and do homework. They walk through the line, they take a glass of water, or if they go through and grab a carton of milk, they're asked to put it back because there's no money in their account. When we heard about that, we thought there is no bill that makes more sense than to pass the milk bill. It failed by strict party line votes, 23 to 71. I was 24 to 70. We had one common sense Republican, Kathy Hawken. I could not, and to see the reaction that we had received from our colleagues was probably the most crushing and emotionally defeating element that I've ever had in the last 5 years. And Eliot has been there, as we could say, slightly longer. And I would imagine that he had the same reaction. But there was a beacon of hope that came from that, because shortly after that vote, I had a superintendent or former superintendent who asked to not be named personally, but he said he worked in one of those school districts where they had several children go through that line. And when he found out that there's kids whose balances were dropped below the amount and they were being denied that milk or juice, he told the cafeteria manager, "You will never deny a child that." He says, if they ever come through and if their account balance is negative, you bill it to me directly. I don't want their parents to know. I don't want that child to know. I don't want another child in that cafeteria to know, because we all know kids will pick on kids for the most trivial reasons. There's no reason why that kid who's already dealing with a lot of challenges in life needs one more. And I'm going to make sure that they get the nutrition they need and they're going to get the attention they need, and it's going to happen. To me, that was true leadership. So thank you, Eliot, for summarizing that. Thank you guys for this. I've got just two things I wanted to bring forward to you guys. There's two important elections in the next cycle. We already know that we're in the 2014 election cycle. There's no senator race or senatorial race. There's no gubernatorial race, which says there's two elections, two campaigns that are vitally important. The first is who are we sending to Congress? Who are we going to elect as North Dakota's only voice in the U.S. House of Representatives, and how can we make sure that they are actually representing the people that live in this state? Someone who's going to fight for a farm bill that will not only look after the interests of our farmers, but also our families. Who's going to fight for financial aid reform and make sure that we're not shifting a heavy burden of financial debt to the next generation of leaders. I believe financial aid is second to home mortgages as far as the amount of debt load that's carried across this country. And when you think of the burden of paying back those student loans and not having a living wage in many of the communities across the state, you're already setting the next generation 5, 10, 15 years back from a healthy way of starting their family. And finally, who is going to be there to make sure that we're looking at tax reform that ensures the financial stability of Social Security, of Medicare? Who's going to fight to preserve health reform so that every American is going to have access to the health care they need? And they're going to do it in a way that returns us back to the days of financial stability, a balanced budget. The Clinton administration, it's hard to believe that we have to look back to the 90s to think of a time when we had it so good. So I'm looking forward to having North Dakota's next congressman fighting for those very causes. But the other election that's the next most important, if not the most important, happens right here. It's to make sure that we elect good, common sense legislators in District 17 and our friends in 43, in Al Carlson's district of 41, people that are going to go down there and represent the people of North Dakota in Bismarck. And it's to make sure that the list that Eliot read off just a few minutes ago doesn't happen again 2 years from now. We really want to make sure that that North Dakota has a government we can be proud of, and we have leaders that represent the people that make this state great. So that's our goal. We're glad to, as a District 42 representative, as a District 18 representative, as Eliot said, we're here to lend our support and make sure that Grand Forks continues to have the strong support that we need to have even more successes in the next session, and to make sure that District 17 is there to help us out with elected Democrats when we're all up in the next cycle in 2016. I've got a couple things I want to pitch before I'm roped off, and I think Tom is going to do the same pitch, but I want to emphasize this. First of all, to my home district, District 42, we do have a rummage sale. So for those who are looking to shop around as we're in the fall season and it's time where someone else's gently used items is your next treasure, District 42 has a rummage sale going on tomorrow, Saturday, and Sunday at Iola's house. It's 2521 North 9th Avenue. 9th Avenue North, sorry. 2521 9th Avenue North at Iola's house. It's going to go Friday, Saturday, Sunday. Please, if you're in the neighborhood, stop by, check it out, or at least refer some of your neighbors. If you have any students that are going to college, it's a great opportunity. We already know the lines at Target and Walmart are going to be about as long as your imagination can extend. Busier than Black Friday. The other thing I want to pitch is inside these doors, there's a table of items. They call it a silent auction. I call it a reward for investing in the future. You're not in there shopping. If you want to buy a candle, you can go and buy a candle. What you're doing, if you go in there and put your name on one of those papers, you're pledging to donate to District 17 to elect Democrats, and you're going to get a prize for doing it. So go in there before you're done here today. Take a look at some of the items. There's some great quilts, some wonderful household items. I'm sure we could even rope into having Mac donate legal services because he's not here to say no. We will make sure that what we get out of here today is going to help elect some great Democrats from District 17. Thanks to Tom and to Meg and everyone here in the district for putting this forward, and thanks for all of your help in our cycles, and we look forward to helping you again here in the next year. Thank you so much, guys.
Thank you, Corey, and it is time to say thank you to all the people who put this event together. Weeze and I have been out of town for the last 3 weeks, conveniently, so we were absolutely no help, and things went off just fine without us. I'm always glad to see that happen. One of the things about politics is it is a team sport, and you need large groups of people behind you to get things done. So I thank you, Mike and Meg Morley, for picking up the slack, Bill and Mavis for doing what they always do, and don't forget Ralph Hondo, who spent a fair amount of time out digging up pretty good silent auction premiums for all of you to bid on, and I encourage you to do so. Corey is right. This is not about getting a bargain. This is about supporting our candidates for the legislature in the upcoming session, putting our money where our mouth is, and I will appreciate all of you who agree to do that. I'll leave you with one final thought. Earlier in the year, I was reading the Grand Forks Herald and noticed that North Dakota is the most dangerous state in the nation for workers. We have a higher fatality per person hour for labor in North Dakota than anywhere else in the country. And when somebody asked Governor Dalrymple to comment on that, remember what he said? He said, "Wow, business must be booming." That's what he said. And we need to remind all of our friends and all of our neighbors that that's the attitude, that is the politics that we are opposing, not supporting. It's a crime that North Dakota should be the most dangerous place in the nation to work, because we have more working people in North Dakota per capita than almost any other state. We should be taking care of the folks who are doing the work in the oil fields and the coal mines, putting our telephones in, people who come and do our cables. We should be caring about those folks because they are North Dakota. Governor Dalrymple, famous Castleton farmer and entrepreneur, doesn't seem to understand that, and neither do his troops. We need to change that. Let's try to get that change going this year. So, thank you all for being here. Thank you all for your generous purchases in the silent auction. Thank you all for your support and your votes in the coming months. Thank you. Ralph also asked me to mention that before we go away, we have to take the tables back inside and do some cleaning up, and a little help would be appreciated on that as well. So, thank you.